Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm in a little bit different setting today. It's a crappy day out. I'm in here doing some editing. So I'm going to try to knock out this Tahoe stereo system today. 4 12-inch kicker CVRs into a 4th order Bandpass box. 2 amps, a bunch of 0 gauge. I was wanting to get it out in one more episode. But I got to editing on this thing and it's just a whole lot of footage, a whole lot of work, and it's going to be 2 more episodes. So this is going to be episode 3 on the Tahoe build. If you missed parts 1 or 2, I'll get them to pop up over here in the corner. So just to bring us up to speed, in the end of part 2, we had just gotten the batteries installed in the Tahoe and just about to start working on getting wires run as far as 0 gauge and all the other stuff. A lot of stuff to get run in this truck. At some point in the midst of all the wiring, 0 gauge getting run, there'll be some hands in the shop to help me lift this big box into the truck. So without further ado, let's get to it. Good, so now we got an idea where we need to take our wire from. I think I'm gonna go ahead and swap out the alternator now and start wiring from there. May go ahead and do all the under hood stuff first. Go ahead and get the big 3, people like to call it, taken care of. I'm gonna go ahead and bring 2 0 gauge wires all the way from my breaker under the hood back here, just to have plenty of power. That 0 gauge wire is about rated for, excuse me there bud, is about rated for what we're pulling off of it. I always like to do a little bit of overkill, so we're going to double up on it, bring it back there. If anybody decides to make some upgrades, they won't have to start from scratch. They'll be able to just go bigger with their amps and subs if they want to. You know, you could even add a bigger alternator than what I'm putting on. I'm putting a 250 on here. You could even go bigger than that if you wanted to with the 2 runs of 2 runs of 0 gauge running through there. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to start taking some of this apart, swap out this alternator real quick. Obviously, this little wire right here ain't going to cut it. And what I usually do, I don't take this wire off and replace it. What I do is leave it on there. The new alternator's got enough of a post on it where I can put this wire plus a nice fat 0 gauge wire coming off of it too. We'll meet them up over by the breaker, bring another one back to this battery, and then we will ground. Maybe, hopefully I can get a ground strap in from here to the frame and also to the battery. So let's get going on all that, see how it goes. When I ordered this, they said you will need a 1 inch smaller or half inch shorter belt because it's got a smaller pulley which spins faster at idle. As soon as I opened the box, this was laying on top. This unit has a stock size pulley. Half inch shorter belt is not needed. But you can look at this pulley and see it's smaller than that one. I don't know. We'll get it on there and see. It's just odd that there's such a contradiction. Alright, now, next issue is the plug. It's basically the same exact plug. They'll both plug in there, but all the wiring is flip-flopped. So if a man could plug this in backward, it would work, but it's got those little grooves on it that don't let you plug it in backward. Here's what we're working with. Here's what you need. The P wire is not even actually in there, it's cut off, and it's the same on this one. So, yes, they are the same, but they will not plug in because they're upside, this one's upside down from that one. That's just dumb. So I've decided what I think I'm going to do is just repin this one, swap them around. Why don't I just cut it off and redo it? I don't know. I don't know why I don't just cut it off and redo it. It could have been done a long time ago if I would do that. I don't know. Maybe I just need to cut it off and redo it. So, yep. Breaking down. Going by the directions. Call me a freaking loser. Just cut them somewhere about here. Boom, boom, and boom. Okay? That. Blue, brown, yellow. Right? Right. Door. Now, got to plug in, yep, like this. Bam! Now we're looking solid. I had to extend this wire because the other one was clocked over here instead of here. And like you saw, I had to replace this harness right here. I think everything's good now. We're gonna put this pulley back on and see how that goes. I think it's gonna be all right. I hope it is. I can think all I want, but
You held your tension?
it's got a wrench on it. It should push towards me.
Parts.
It's gonna have to go a little further.
My hands have to
Oh
look
yeah.
different.
Mistaken.
I'm bottomed. I'm bottomed.
It needs to just, you know. Oh, it's on there. It's on there.
Oh, she's tight.
Yeah, that's tight.
She's tight.
We're good on that. All right, alternator upgraded. Now, a bunch of wire.
Go ahead.
All right, we're gonna do our big 3 upgrade. We're gonna start with the ground wire. I'm gonna bring a wire from this bolt right here. We're gonna get right on the alternator bracket. We're gonna take and go to a body bolt down here. And then we're going to take and go from that to the ground on the battery right here.
Way smoother and easier than I thought it was going to.
Did you look at the sides? That's fitment. Check them out.
Need a pressure rub.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's looking nice.
that's gonna be epic. Oh, you should probably go ahead and invest in a new back glass now.
Well, it's all the way pushed in, so we're going to have to modify the tailgate a little bit, but I think we'll get it in there. I think it'll be fine. All right. Got the grounds upgraded. came from this bolt here. Ended up doing it a little different than I had anticipated. I ended up not liking that bolt. Where is it at? Right down there. That little sheet metal pan, the wire was gonna have to be sandwiched in that, and I didn't like the way that was gonna be. So I decided to go to this factory ground point, basically just upgrading what's already there. This is block to body ground there. Basically we're doing the same thing, block to body ground, but we're doing it with a 0 gauge. Runs around and comes right back in on the side of the alternator bracket with the first one, which comes straight over here to the ground on the battery. That's got the body grounded, and when we go in the back and unbolt the seat or the seat belt or whatever we end up grounding on back there, it's going to be a good body ground all the way back to this battery, back to the alternator, and to our new batteries. All be grounded pretty good. So next thing I'm going to do is get on the hot wires. So we're going to have one from the battery post here. We're going to have one from the alternator post here. And I'm going to bring both of them two together into the breaker. Got a 300 amp breaker here. Excuse me, this output post here is going to have our 2 0 gauges that are going to run down the fender well and all the way back to our batteries. Alright, here's the update. I got all these big threes wrapped up. Alright, next morning here at the rock bottom shop. I really couldn't sleep good last night on account of this right here. I'm not happy with how this turned out. I don't like this wire sticking out over this brace. I don't like the angle of the breaker, and I don't know. So, this is going to come apart. And I think I'm going to do something different. I'm going to use this bracket here. I'm going to mount it underneath this here and mount this to it, which means taking some of this wiring apart right off the bat and seeing how it's going to fit in over here. So sometimes that's the way she goes. Now I'm more satisfied with that. All the wires are down below everything. I got a metal bracket on here mounted to this. See if we can get in there. There you go. I think that looks a whole lot better. Doesn't interfere with anything. Going back through and getting my zip ties cleaned up now. Got a couple here to throw on, and I cut them loose from underneath here also just to try to get my slack pulled up a little bit better. So I'm going to go through and zip tie all those back up, and then we'll be ready to drill some holes through the floor to get the wiring up to the batteries. Got everything back this far to the back, and trying to get right up in this little clear spot here. Should bring us in about where that little dot is. Get our hot wires up to the batteries there. So I'm going to drill a pilot right here. Yep. There we go. Let's see if that pops out where we hope it does. Or close. Let's see if that's in a decent spot for a couple wires. Oh, that's looking good right there. Alright, there we go. Got a couple of big old holes in here, and I got these grommets that might go through there. Let's see if they fit in there. Oh, perfect. And then we need to make a little in the carpet right there. Yep. Maybe the same way like this, so that it catches around both of them. Oh man, that's the berries right there, son. Let's take a look underneath. these grommets, and that's got it sealed to the body, and there's a gasket inside these that seals it to the wire when I tighten these down. I'm gonna wait and do that once I get them all connected, and we'll get the rest of these all cinched up in here where they need to be. But she's looking good. Did you get it? Good job, buddy. I'm going over all my lugs. These here. I bought tons extra, but I'm still gonna run out. So I had intentions of using this big chunk of aluminum here and doing bus bars on my batteries here, but because of the placement of them, I wasn't able to have them sitting straight beside each other where the hots would be beside each other and the grounds would be beside each other, just because of the configuration of having to lay them flat instead of having them standing on their ends. So I'm having to use a bunch of these loop wires between jumper wires, whatever you want to call them, between the hots and the grounds, and it's eating up, and a whole bunch more ring terminals. The only place local I can get them at is O'Reilly's. They had 2 in stock, and I'm still going to be short by 2, maybe 3 more it looks like. But I'm going to show you guys a trick of what I used to do back in the day. We didn't buy ring terminals on 0 gauge. We made our own out of 1/2-inch copper. I'm going to show you how we used to make our own ring terminals. And you can do them this way. I don't know if it's any cheaper. It's just something you can do on the fly. If it's Sunday, I think I said something about that now I think of it at the beginning of all this. Sunday, nothing's open except for O'Reilly's, and they got what they got. He said he could have me some more in by tomorrow, but trying to get this wiring situation buttoned up today, and I'm going to show you guys in a pinch. I don't even say in a pinch, I mean it's basically the same thing. You got copper ring terminals, you make them yourself out of this 1/2-inch copper. I'm going to show you how I do it. I got everything tidied up under here. Let's see. And they're double zeros coming all the way from the front. They're pretty much tucked on top of that frame rail. There's a bunch of other factory wires, big wiring harnesses running right up there with them. Running up through there. Alright. And then this is where they come through the floor and got those seal tight grommets. I know that's nearly impossible to see, but they're up there. Seal tight grommets are up there. Everything's zip tied up. Cable ties up out of the way. Comes through the floor right there. Carpet's gonna get tucked all back away. All nice. I may do a little bit more trimming on that, but I think it's all gonna be able to get right back in there like it goes. Let me turn this stupid light off because it flickers. Set this one up here. So there, through the floor to the batteries. I just got one going to each battery. I got jumper wires between the batteries. Grounds here, grounded on the seat post, cleaned all the paint off. I think we're actually ready to start wiring up amps now, is where we're at. So I'll probably continue on with the 0 gauge first. 0 gauge first, and then we'll worry about our RCAs and turn on wires and speaker wires afterwards. That stuff's pretty simple, just plug and play on that. The way I did the back seat angle on this box, I gave myself just enough room right here to be able to sneak wires through at the bottom. The top hits nice and flush, so it looks good up there, and I gave myself just enough little bit of room there to get wires tucked in. And I got my fuse blocks here, and I should be able to get them to sneak right in there. Yep, they will sneak right in there like that on the screwed to the front of the box. So I got 2 of these 150s, 1 for each amp. But I think I'm ready for some lunch right now. All right, lunchtime's over. Back to work. I'm gonna go ahead and get these amps mounted in here, and that way I'll know exactly where I need to get my wire to. I always do this. Let me show you here. This is just a piece of supply line that you would use on a sink supply line, 3/8 supply line, plastic stuff. Something I always do is just make some little spacers out of that. Just cuts real easy with a razor knife or pocket knife or a chainsaw, whatever you got. And I always put these little spacers underneath my amp so it gets some kind of airflow under it. I don't like just mounting it against carpet or anything really. I like it to be able to breathe at least a little bit underneath. Plus you can sneak wires, like in this case my RCAs are going to pop on here, and I'll be able to turn them right back underneath the amp and take them out front. So these right here are just going to go in the screw holes. You'll see when I get them put on there, but it just hovers the amp up a little bit, so it gives it a little more room to breathe. Got the amps mounted in there, looking good. I don't know if I've said this, but these amps don't match. They are the same model number, but different year. This amp here is older. This one here is brand new. Got them in there placed nicely. I just did do it a little different though. I didn't use my spacers on the top because I needed the amps up just a little higher to get some clearance under there. And it left this mounting hole up above the box, so I had some metal brackets I cut and bolted them there. So I got my standoffs on the bottom, so the amp's kind of kicked at an angle, which is cool because the truck's got that angle to it also. And I still got that gap, some airspace in the back of it, and I can still sneak my wires through there, the RCAs through there too, so that's cool. I like it. So now I can start running some wires up to them. Alright, I gotta wrap this episode up right here. I hope everybody likes the build so far. We got one more episode to go, and then this build will be complete. That last episode, we're gonna do some flexing on this thing, so stay tuned for that one. And as always, like and subscribe.